Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Her Story TV and the Her Story podcast. I am graced with the presence of yet another fascinating lady coming to us all the way from the United States. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our tribe. Please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, how old you are, and share your story with us today.
Aloha, I'm Dr. Valerie Simonsen, and thank you, Gertrude, for making this possible for us all. Really appreciate that. My home base is in my heart. I've been on the road for over 10 years as a naturopathic physician, going from country to country, serving wherever I needed to serve, whatever was needed. And my age is, I think I'm 64. But I've been in medicine since I was in my teens, and actually went to be a ER physician. That's what my first passion was to be. And then I had an illness, and I had 3 near-death experiences, major surgery, found out about naturopathic medicine, found out about chiropractic, all of that. And I decided, well, I didn't decide. When in one of my near-death experiences, they said, go back, be the bridge between the medicines. And that's what I've done. And I became a naturopathic doctor, physician, and I do what they call integrative medicine. I also am a specialist in ecological medicine, which means taking our society and bringing the whole society into wellness. And that's the key, is wellness. But I never focus on what a disease is. I focus on what patients need, communities, work with governments throughout the world. But really what changed my life was, at one time, I decided to live my dream. And my dream was to travel around the world. And I got on a plane and ended up in Samoa. And then I went to Australia. I went to New Zealand. And then I went to Australia after a short time in Bali. But in Bali, I was delivering babies and taking care of 100+ people a day in this clinic in Ubud with Robin Lim. And there was a woman that was paralyzed 10 years. She couldn't speak. She couldn't walk. She was all shriveled up. And she couldn't eat. Her husband would feed her by chewing the food and then putting it in her mouth, and then going like this to get the food to go down. Well, I had him put his arms underneath her arms and dangle out her body, and I looked into her eyes, and I could see this spark of hope. I could see this spark. I call it hope. And I gave her homeopathic for depression and told her to come back the next day. She came every day. And in Bali, the families, they come with them. So the families got bigger and bigger. The room was filled with family members. One day I was walking away from her cart, and she spoke. The first time in 10 years, she said, "Man, oh man, oh man." I cried. Everybody cried. And then she started laughing. I spent a few more weeks with her, and she was walking, talking, could feed herself. She had the best sense of humor, although I didn't understand her at all. It made me laugh. And she walked to my going away party that they had at the clinic for me at Bumi Sahat. And the acupuncturist took me aside and said, "What did you do? How did you do this?" And I thought about, what did I do? What I did is I believed in her. She wasn't her diagnosis. She wasn't her history. It was that spark that I saw in her eyes. That's what it was. I left Bali, headed to Australia. Australia found out right away, the authorities, that I was a doctor. They made it really clear in customs, you do not take care of anyone here because you're not licensed. So I just listened, and I headed out on a road trip around Australia. And I'm driving down the road one day, and all of a sudden I realized that woman was my doula to finding my new career, which is you know more. That woman knew inside of herself that she could heal herself. It's just nobody believed her. But me looking in her eyes, I did believe her. More importantly, the load that I was carrying as a physician was immediately lifted from me. Because I believed in her, she got better. Because she believed in herself, and she knew that she could do that. And everybody has this. We are born with this. This is innate in us. You have it. Everyone has it. And that's why people that go through these horrible situations, such as rape, those things that you were talking about the other day, Gertrude, about a woman being raped by six men or something, there's something inside that kept that woman alive. It's that knowingness. That's the knowingness. So the name of my business is You Know More. And that's what my mission is. That's the movement that is being created, is people remember. They remember that they have this. They have that innate wisdom. And
oh my gosh, you are a woman close to my soul. We do all have that spark, and a lot of times in life we get knocked down, things happen to us, circumstances, but they aren't there to define who we are. We get to decide who we are. And I love the fact that you saw the spark in that woman, because we've all got it. Sometimes we forget it's there.
yeah.
And sometimes the older we get as women, we lose our self-confidence, we forget who we truly are.
Mm.
And you can rekindle it. You can reconnect with that spark if you want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And with the culture changing, the society, the schools saying, oh, this is the way you need to be, or the community saying this is the way you need to be. It isn't very long when the little girls are going, I wonder who I am. I wonder who they are. And we now, as the wisdom keepers, get to make it safe for these young women or the young girls to remember and to support them in that. This is who you are. You know more. You know more.
And you're right that our job really is just to show up to remind them
Mm-hmm.
of who they truly are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Man, so you have been all over the world. You've been to places I've been and places I love. I run all of my writers' retreats in Ubud.
Ah.
So Bali is my spiritual healing space.
Mm.
So let's go back and talk a little bit about disease, or dis-ease, as I like to call it.
Yeah.
It's when something in your body is not at ease that it manifests in all of these multiple ways. So I collapsed with congestive heart failure in a rice field in Bali in 2017 and almost checked out. And it was the biggest gift that was ever given to me, because it woke me up to life again.
Yeah.
I had forgotten how to truly live. I had forgotten why I was here. And when you're faced with those few moments where you could cross over to the other side,
Yeah. Yeah.
you come back a fuller version of yourself than you could ever have been before.
Mm-hmm.
So if there is a woman who's listening to us right now who's been diagnosed with some kind of an illness, something terminal, and is thinking, is this it? What else can I do?
Mm.
Give us some nuggets of wisdom for that woman. How can we go back to being at ease and not?
The most important thing is to understand everything that comes to us in this world, whether it's a butterfly, a dog, a child, an illness, if we could say, there are teachers, and we get to learn something. And going back to your story, Gertrude, and thank you for sharing that, the heart, we could say it was a heart attack, it was this, that, it was a heart opening. And what you did is you opened to you. That's what the heart opening did for you. We can take any situation and make that be our gift. And then as we remember, we are not our diagnosis, we're not even our name. We can do anything. And I always remind women, even if they haven't had a vaginal birth, that you're a woman. You can do anything. And those women that have had vaginal births and they pushed a baby through that little tiny opening that's smaller than a pea, if you can push a baby through that, you can do anything. And women that have had a C-section, if they made it through that, they can do anything. So I think it's important to look at what you have been able to be successful with, or taking these experiences and turn it into fertilizer, compost for the seeds that you want to plant for now. And guaranteed, life does have an expiration date. It does. But until that time, never give up. Never give up.
And you're right, we are born to die. Dying is the most inevitable thing.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, we all live in the fear of that inevitability, but
Mhm.
it's coming. And it's what you do from the day you're born till the day you check out that really matters. Now, you talk about signs. I had a few signs, before I collapsed. I went to the butterfly park in Ubud the
Yes.
day before all of this happened. And I was in the hatching section where they had all of the eggs. And the guy was giving a demonstration and talking about the mammoth butterfly. And I have never seen anything more beautiful in my life. It was huge. It spanned both my hands. The wings were like a bird.
Wow.
And so he was talking about this butterfly and how it comes out of its cocoon. It lives for 5 days. It doesn't drink. It doesn't eat. It just hatches all of its eggs and then it dies. And as he said those words, this butterfly jumped from the palm of his hand onto the top of my head right here.
Wow.
And it started downloading all of these eggs in my hair. And I was standing there screaming, saying, take it off, take it off.
Oh my God.
And this man said to me, don't move, don't move. That is amazing. I've never seen this happen before. He said, just stay still. It's just hatching its eggs. And the minute it was done, it fell on the ground and it died. And then I collapsed the next day. So I have my interpretation of what could potentially have happened, but I would love you to share what your view could be of what happened to me with that.
So the butterfly symbolically is about transformation. And whenever a butterfly comes, it always is an opening. And we go from the cocoon into another place. And, the heart opening, your heart opened. The eggs being placed upon your head, you receive a blessing. So you probably now have all different kinds of messages that are coming into you. We would call you a multi-dimensional being, right? Because it's fertile. It's just so fertile. And that other realm of existence came in to bless you with that because they knew you were ready for that. It was like a contract. Yeah. Transformation.
You know, I was trying to look for the picture of this day on my Facebook account, but I do feel like the old me died that day for the
Yeah.
new me to come
Yeah.
forward.
Right.
And ever since that day, I have been a full expression of who I truly am.
Yeah.
Up until that point, I was living in the shadow of my true self.
Yes.
So we're going to go for a little commercial break and we will be back. And my next question for you is, if you could go back to the younger you, let's say that time is an illusion, time doesn't exist, and you could go back and have a conversation with the young you, that young girl who had all of these knowings, didn't quite trust them, and have a conversation with her based on what life has taught you, what would you say to her? We'll be back with that in a second. Hello and welcome back, everybody. This is Getrude Matshe here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. I am blessed with the presence of Dr. Valerie Simonsen coming to us from the US. My question was, if you were to have a conversation with that younger you, based on what life has taught you, there might be a young woman who is listening to us right now, is looking for advice. What would you say to her based on what life has taught you?
The first thing that I would say to Valerie is look at what your name means. My name is Valerie Lane Simonsen, which Valerie comes from the root word courage, valor. Lane is the path. And I would say to her, Valerie, you're always going to be walking a path that many dare not go, but keep on putting one foot in front of the other, because you are meant to be who you are on this path of courage, strength, and hope.
That is awesome. And a beautiful reminder to all of us, because sometimes we do forget. We get lulled into this thing called life. We forget what we committed to be when we incarnated, and we need to be reminded of that. Now, when I sent you my interview questions, I asked you, what are the keywords you want people to be able to find you on? And you gave me 3 phrases, 2 of which I know, 1 I don't. You said a natural path position, flourish of Ojai, I hope I'm saying that right, and wellness consulting. Tell me the one that I don't know so that our listeners can also learn from who you are, and let's make it mainstream.
Well, naturopathic physicians, they're global, so probably not that one. And wellness consultant is kind of, that's a given. But Flourish of Ojai is an organization started by Diana Sievertson that approached me 2 years ago when I was going through some life changes. And she asked me, what's next? And I said, gee, I don't have a clue. I've done everything. And she said, offered me a fellowship through Flourish of Ojai, and they accepted me. I wanted to go into fashion. I wanted to start my clothing line. They encouraged me to stay in medicine. But I spent almost a year with them working on business structure, website design, all of those things for business, and created this beautiful package to offer for retreats for healthcare providers and frontline workers, which this was pre-COVID. So that's what I would say, Flourish of Ojai, because you Google them and you'll find my name and you'll find theirs. Yeah.
Fantastic. I'm always wanting to learn something new every single day. Thank you for sharing that. So you sound to me like you're a very, very creative woman.
Yes.
Fashion is my passion. I'm a textile artist. I have my clothing line. But this vocation to stay in the healing world seems to be a calling.
Hmm.
A lot of people don't even know what their calling is. How were you able to define that, or to know that this is what I'm supposed to be doing?
I'm going to go back to the art. And I've always used art with my patients. I had a little girl that had a UTI, urinary tract infection, and I'd done all the tests. I couldn't figure out what was wrong. And I tried all kinds of medicine. Nothing was working. And that day I was going to have to talk to them about possible sexual abuse. And I decided to do a piece of art with her instead. I had her draw a picture of her body. She drew herself, and in the center of her belly was an apple with a worm coming out of the apple. I checked her for worms. Sure enough, she had worms. From that day forward, I just really focused on medicine and art. And it's evolved to what I call craftivism, which is not my word, but I've adopted that, is that through some form of art, you heal yourself. And one of the things that I love doing, I call them repurpose circles, is that we take an old piece of our life. And I just happen to have these here. I was teaching a class today. So this is a baby shoe, right? And then we go through a ceremony, and I painted it copper that fit this particular class I was teaching today. So for me personally, it isn't about medicine. It's about creativity. It's about going in and finding whatever skill that you have, or not even a skill. It's just a passion to be creative. I mean, that's what the womb is, right? We create babies. Well, that's how we do the art and all of that too. It's the same thing. It's just a different form. So medicine to me is fun, but more it's creative.
Fantastic. Oh, wow. I could talk to you all day. I have two more questions for you. What would you say has been your biggest life's failure? The thing that you really felt you failed.
Yeah, that was a big one. It just happened a couple years ago when I was really trying to decide. I didn't want to stay in medicine. I wanted to go out and do just my clothing line, my art, the creative craftivism. But I started working. I hired a business coach, and they assured me that they could help me create this movement of more without doing a normal marketing plan. So I invested in it, and I invested an enormous amount of money. And I started getting sicker and sicker because I wasn't getting what I needed, and the emotional stress of the whole thing. And one day I had to get a lawyer to try and get out of the contract. And one day I was talking with the head of the company, and I said, I'd like to get some of my money back. And he said, well, what's the name of your business? And I said, you know more. And he says, well, then what are you doing drinking our Kool-Aid? And it was like, wow, it hit me right between the eyes. I went to him, drank his Kool-Aid. And that was, I don't believe in mistakes, but I really learned a lot. It cost me a lot of money, cost me a lot of health. And I drank his Kool-Aid because I really do know more.
Oh, man. Yeah. And it's about us just trusting in our own knowing sometimes
Yep.
as women. We look outside of ourselves. We think, oh, I need this extra help. And meanwhile, you had it already inside you.
Yeah.
Amazing lesson. So,
Mm-hmm.
my last question for you is this. Remember how I said time is an illusion and time doesn't exist? I'm going to teleport you into your future to that 120-year-old you. You'll probably live to 150 based on how you look after yourself. And if you could have a conversation with the older woman, that woman who has lived this incredible life, what would you say to her?
I would say thank you. Thank you for reminding me to stay low like water. I always find the path that there's no resistance and listen. And I would just thank her for all of that she taught me, of really listening and staying low. No stress, just going with the flow.
Amazing, 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 amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for gracing us with your wisdom, with your knowledge today.
Thank you.
It's just inspiring to meet women like you who are out there in the world, changing people's lives one woman at a time, one story at a time. It's been an absolute honor. And to everybody who's tuned in today, yet another fascinating guest. If you are a woman with a story to share, you need to honor your story. You need to share it. Your story could be that light at the end of somebody else's tunnel.
For sure.
It doesn't matter what has happened to you in your life. Your past doesn't define your future. We're looking for more speakers. We've got events in October, in November, in December. Please be a part of our movement. Join us and change lives one woman at a time, one story at a time. Have a fantastic evening, everybody, day, morning, wherever you are in the world. And thank you again, Valerie, for this amazing interview.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Thank
Bye
you.
for now, everyone.
Aloha.